Hello, 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 everybody. I want to welcome you to another Money Monday. My name is Rosalind Brown of Your Wealth Guidance, where we help Black women create their financial independence map and identify the tools for success so you can live life on your own terms. Thank you so much for being here today. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of these great Money Monday speakers. Our speaker today is our own personal Black girl magic, Kamila Elliott. She is the epitome of Black girl magic. She is the CEO and founder of Collective Wealth Partners, a registered investment advisory firm headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia. She spent her early career at Vanguard accumulating 2 decades of financial planning and investment experience, assisting high net worth individuals, endowments and foundations, and business owners with comprehensive wealth solutions and holistic planning. Kamila is the board of directors for the CFP board, and the CFP board of directors is the policy making and oversight body of the CFP, or Certified Financial Planner Board of Standards, for over 92,000 financial professionals in the United States. She is the current chair of the CFP board, but most importantly, she is the first Black girl to hold that position and one of the youngest to ever serve in that role. So that is a big thing. As always, we're doing big things. We are representing in the space. So, of course, she is a CFP. And it's always great to have these professionals that are here, that hold the credentials, because today, so many people are throwing around the word. I always remember that song. I'm from Georgia too. That Young Jeezy song. When the song starts and they say, so many people are throwing the word recession around. So go back and listen to that CD from Young Jeezy. And that's where we are all over again. It was just a little over a decade ago. And here we are again, having those same messages, those same, like, oh my God, what's going on? And so when we talk about, are you ready? Are you prepared for what's coming? We don't know if there's a recession coming, but are you prepared for what's coming, especially as we work towards this financial independence journey? So, Camila, take it away.
Thank you, Rosalind, and it's a pleasure to be with all of you this evening. If you have any questions and want me to spend a little more time talking about a specific topic, please feel free to share. One of the things I will say, to Rosalind's point, are you recession ready? One of the things I think it's mostly important is that you can't control the economy. No one here is the chair of the Federal Reserve. No one here is the Treasury Secretary. I don't know how many CEOs of large banks or firms are here today, but those typically are decisions that impact the direction of the economy and the actions that take place. And what you should focus on is you, right? How you prepare, how you spend, how you save. This is how you prepare for a recession. So, one of the things that I share with people is for you to be successful with money, you need to know where you're going, right? And so there are 6 steps that I share with my clients as to how to prepare for your finances, but particularly in an environment like this, where an enhanced level of discipline is needed. Here are the 6 steps. One is to write down your money goals. What are you trying to accomplish, right? Are you trying to purchase your first home? Are you trying to get out of debt? Are you trying to retire early? Or is just financial stability and independence important to you? I talked with someone today who is taking the Beyonce song "You Won't Break My Soul" into fruition. She's like, "Camila, I hate my job and I'm quitting," right? And said,
Wow,
"Well,
wait.
but you know what,
Beyonce got
Rosalind?
money.
But you know what she did? She's a diligent saver. And so she has a year and a half of her monthly expenses in a savings account, in addition to her retirement account. So we did talk and said, well, if you wanted to, you could take a sabbatical. You could leave work for 3 to 6 months and be totally okay. Just take a break, heal from the trauma, and then come back, or start your own business. We even talked about that too. But you know what? She knew her money goals. She knew that she wanted to be financially independent. She knew that she didn't want to be beholden to a corporation for a biweekly paycheck, and wanted the freedom to be able, at one point in her life, which isn't now, to say that I don't want to work anymore for this company. So, knowing your money goals and creating steps in place to achieve them is extremely important. The second is you need to know your starting point, and that's knowing your net worth. So everyone should know their net worth. So what you do is you take your asset, so your balance in your checking account, savings account, the value of your home, the value of your IRA, the value of your 401k, the value of your car, and you get that total number. You then subtract it from your liabilities, which is your mortgage or your car loan or any credit card debt you may have or student loan debt you may have, and you know your net worth. Why is this important? If saving money was easy, everyone would do it, right? But we need to see some level of momentum and achievement. So knowing that, let's say you do this on Friday. Friday's July 1st. It's a great start of the quarter, right? If you see that on July 1st, your net worth was 50,000, but then on October 1st, being diligent in over 3 months, paying down some credit card debt, saving a little bit more, it's now 54,000. Like, wow, I improved my net worth by $4,000, right? It's a sense of achievement, and it keeps the momentum going forward. So that's a really, really important factor to be able to achieve these goals. The third is create a budget. And everyone needs a budget. I'll give you what our standard budget allocation is. And for a budget, I'll share with you right now, this is no judgment, right? But what we say a budget is a representation of your values. So whatever you value is where your discretionary money should go. There are certain things like you got to pay your mortgage, you got to pay your rent, you got to pay your utilities. But other things like vacations, eating out, DoorDash, Uber Eats, clothing, hair, nails, right? I can quickly see, looking at someone's budget, what you value. The key is, are you spending money on what you value the most? So I met with a client and they were spending $600 a month on DoorDash. And I'm like, is the DoorDash that, no, nothing against DoorDash, the company, right? But is the DoorDash that good? Is the food that good? Is the service that good? And I'm like, is it worth you taking another year to save more money because you're spending that just on DoorDash? And they said no. So wouldn't you love to reallocate that money, right? Just cut DoorDash in half. That's $3,600 a year. That could be going on vacation somewhere,
Someone
right? And
values a good meal.
exactly, right? But when you annualize that number, right? Um, that is $7,200 you're spending a year on DoorDash. What else could you be doing with $7,200 a year? You say, I can't get to Morocco. Well, that's the Morocco money right there, but it's going to DoorDash, right? So it's important to know where your money is going and how to make sure it's aligning to what's most important to you. The next is prioritizing paying off your debts, right? The cost of interest, especially now that interest rates are going up, the expense is high, and you're basically giving the money away to these corporations that are not helping you advance your goals. So the quickly you can pay off your credit card debt, the better. Have an accountability partner. This is truly, truly important, right? Why? We know that people who speak their goals out loud have a good success, right? Maybe I think it's 15%. Those that write down their goals have a 60% chance of meeting them. But if you have an accountability partner, you have about a 90% chance of success. If you articulate this goal to your spouse, your best friend, a colleague, someone that's with you, That's the key thing. Someone that's around your peripheral to know what's actually going on. So if Rosa and I were accountability partners, I told Rosa, you know what? My goal is to save $5,000 a year. But if she saw me over at Lenox Mall one day with bags in my hand, she'd be like, Kamila, I thought we had a goal of 5,000 a year for savings. Where are you so far year to date? I would have a look of shame. I would put my head down and say, Rosalind, you know what? I'm only at 2 and I'm behind. Okay, go back in that store and return them clothes. Right? So you want someone that knows your goals and it's gonna question you and keep you accountable. Um, it works for, tests and exams and things like that, but it also works for reaching financial goals. And the last is set a money date. What do I mean by a money date? It's the day of the month, maybe 30 to 60 minutes, where you sit and review your finances. You go back and you look at your budget from the past month. All right, I had a goal of no more than $200 of eating out. Did I meet that goal? Did I exceed it? Do I go under? And if you didn't, how are you going to behave differently next month to reach that goal? I was supposed to save this much money. I didn't save. What are you going to do differently? And also, are my bills tracking where I thought they were tracking? You know what? I thought that my utility bills were this, it's actually that. Let me go ahead and change my budget accordingly. Most people spend more money planning a vacation than they plan their retirement. Pause there.
Easily.
Most people plan longer for a vacation than they plan for your retirement. So it's important that people understand that you need to be as thoughtful about a 1 week or 2 week vacation as you are with your 20 to 25-year vacation. Okay. Any questions there?
Simone asks, how often should you be looking at your net worth?
I would say look at your net worth at least every quarter. Every month you may not see much movement, but once a quarter you should see some movement if you're exerting the right level of discipline.
And then Layla, she asks about fire. So is this kind of in line with the whole financially independent retire early, which I think it's a mix.
It
It,
is.
it could
Mhm.
be the, you can't wait until you're ready. You just need some time off today. And so we definitely
Exactly.
talked about that. Maybe you just forget it. I need a year. I need a
Mhm.
year. I need a year to get my mind right. It might
It
be
is.
that.
Yeah, so the people that can, usually do the FIRE method, they're saving half of their salary, typically. So the goal for if you don't know FIRE, a lot of people, they wanna retire by the time they're 40 or 50, right? So that means for the average person, you only have about 19 to 30 years of work. And the problem with FIRE, which is I think is great, but it requires you to be thoughtful, is that if you're gonna work 19 to 30 years, but life expectancy is, let's say, 72, you have 22 years of living off of 19 years of work, right? So you need to be really thoughtful on both ends. One, exhibit a lot of discipline and a high savings rate when you're working. And then the same needs to be done when you retire, right? It's even actually more important when you retire, right? Because you're not working, right? So we use it. It's when you're working, you have human capital. When you retire, you have investment capital, right? So you have to have a good amount of money saved to be able to draw from the portfolio in a meaningful way to meet your needs in retirement. So, you know, you especially need to know your net worth if you're under the FIRE method. You definitely need to have a very good budget that you're beholden to. And number three, you can't have any debt or very, very limited low interest debt. Many people prioritize making sure their credit card loans, student loans, personal loans, all of those are paid off, because that's what allows you, number one, to save, but live on a pretty modest level of income in retirement.
And then we have this is a really good question. This might be where a lot of people are because sometimes the reason why we don't know we spending $600 on DoorDash is because we don't want to look and we don't see.
Hmm.
So someone says, if you have a client who has a lot of anxiety to put together a budget, how do you support them?
That's very common. Many people do not like the budget meeting. For every client we work with, we do a budget. But we align your budget with your goals. And it's, like I said, it's a judgment-free zone, right? We're not saying, why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? It's, did you know? And is that where you want the money to go? We all have our vices, so I'll share with you mine, right? You know, mine is vacations. I will cook my food. I will go to the grocery store. Actually, after this, I'm heading to Kroger. I got to do my weekly shopping. I didn't make it yesterday.
Team
Uh,
Aldi.
yes. Yes. So I cook a lot, but what I really spend a lot of my discretionary income in is on vacations, right? I'm heading to Oregon next month, and some friends and I are going to go to wine country because I love wine. And so that's really where I spend my money, is like domestic trips, international trips. I guess I follow the millennial, Rosalind, the we value experiences, right? I'm planning, like I told my boyfriend yesterday, like, I want to go to France for 2 weeks and go to the Burgundy and Bordeaux region. He's like, what? Like, where did this come from? But now I have a plan and my budget's aligned, right? Um, so it's really having, it's knowing where your money goes, and is it going where it should go? So there shouldn't be any shame about it or embarrassment. um and we try to get our clients to the point where they feel proud about their budget, and it's like, yes, this is, like, I spend this money and I'm fine with it.
And that's so this is another good question, and hear this all the time. Which IRA and retirement accounts should she be using, and what are the best ones? And so definitely have heard this question a million times. I'm sure you have too.
I have really all of them. So what we call is, like, you have diversification of your investments. Like we were talking about this a little earlier, Rosalind, like you don't put all of your money in one stock, right? Just how you wouldn't put all your money in Microsoft, or you wouldn't put all your money in Tesla. We recommend, don't put all your money in one type of IRA. Because one of the things we don't know is what our tax laws going to be in the future. What are tax rates going to be? So we do a mixture of them, where we put some money in a traditional IRA, if that's available to the client. So traditional IRA, you get a tax deduction putting it in for many people, or 401k. But when you take it out, you pay taxes then. The reason why is that when you do your taxes, many of you don't know, but many of you probably know this, everyone gets a standard deduction, right? So if you're single, the first 12,004 of your income is tax-free. If you're head of household, it's 18,800. If you're married, I think it's 24,400. I can't remember all the numbers, but when you're retired, there's a certain level of your income that you pay no taxes on whatsoever. So if you take money out your traditional IRA, $12,400, that's tax-free money, right? We also like a Roth IRA. So a Roth IRA, you don't get an immediate tax benefit now. You just contribute money to the retirement account. For most people, there's some tax credits you get for low-income investors, but for most people, you don't get a tax benefit in contributing to the Roth IRA. But when you take the money out, you pay no tax at all. And then secondly, what's even more advantageous for those that want to do more generational wealth, there's no required minimum distribution for a Roth IRA as of now, right? Tax laws can change, but as of now, because you're not paying tax on that money, the IRS doesn't care for you to take it out because it doesn't benefit them, right? So if you want to keep money for heirs and things of that nature, and not have to, many people do a Roth IRA. And then also recommend a taxable savings account too. Because one thing, a Roth IRA, many of you may not know, the most you can contribute for a Roth is $6,000 if you're under 50, $7,000 if you're over 50. So for most people, that's not enough of retirement savings. But even a regular taxable savings account is helpful. And if you're a long-term investor, you pay something called a long-term capital gains rate. What does that mean? So if your ordinary income tax rate is 24% or 35%, if you have investments and you keep them for over 1 year and you make a gain, your tax rate can be 15 to 20%. So you pay a lower tax than you do on the gains off of your investment income than off the income you generate by working. So we recommend our clients having money in each of those buckets, because that creates tax diversification.
And so that's a really big thing. So someone also says, we got a lot of good questions in here. If you have some cash in a regular bank, what is the best place to put it that you can earn money? So I'm guessing, you got your emergency savings,
Mhm.
what to do about that money.
Yeah. So typically, most banks do not pay great interest rates on savings. They give you 0.01, maybe 0.05. So if this is money for like an emergency savings account, we like to invest that like in a high yield savings account. So some of the good ones are like Ally Bank has a good high yield savings account. Capital One does. Goldman Sachs Marcus account. They all pay between zero point 0.8 and 0.85 right now. I think maybe almost at 0.9. It's not a lot, but you think about it. Your local bank is paying you 0.01 and Goldman's going to pay you 0.9, right? You're 90 timesing your interest that you're getting off of your savings, right? So it's for something that you may need. And I want to kind of pivot a little bit, going back to the recessionary topic. I think this is important. Whenever you think there's going to be difficult economic times, liquidity is key. It doesn't matter how much you have in investments, if it's something that is not accessible to you and something that you can't turn over to cash pretty quickly and use to pay your bills, it's not helpful. So going back to COVID-19, right? I was a financial advisor then, of course, and the market had been up for 10 years. And people were like, oh, you know what? I'm tired of earning a little bit of money in the savings account. I'm just going to put my money in the stock market. I'm putting my emergency savings in the stock market. Well, what happened during COVID-19? Within about 3 weeks, the market was down about 34%. So when you needed that money the most, it was down 34%. Money for emergencies is not supposed to be sexy. It's not where you brag about, I got this return. Money for emergencies is designed to be there when you need it. And being there when you need it means putting it in something that a dollar is a dollar. It's pretty stable. And when
Not
you
the
take
mattress, not the shoebox.
not the mattress, not a shoebox either. No, it's funny because not funny, but I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, and there was a NBA player. I'm not sure if you heard about Vince Carter. What happened to him? Someone robbed him and his family, and he had $100,000 in the house, and someone took it. Right.
He ain't
So
gonna make that. He all right.
he's all right, but many people in this call, Roslyn, may not be all right if their
I ain't
money
gonna
got
be all right
stolen.
if you come and get that at my mattress, but my mattress is
Exactly. Right.
like that. So
Yeah.
don't worry about coming here.
Yeah. But yeah, so and also under your mattress and in your shoebox, it's not earning any interest. And so actually that's a good point, is that inflation right now has been in about 8.5%. When you keep money in a shoebox or in a mattress, it's not earning any interest at all. It's just sitting there. You're actually losing value by it sitting there. At least with the high yield savings account, as interest rates go up, the overall federal interest rates go up, the rate you get on your savings will go up. It's low right now, but typically they earn about 3 to 5%. So at some point, you will earn enough interest that you're not losing as much money to inflation.
And so somebody else's team travel. So hey, Layla, hopefully we'll see you at the airport or something. Um, and somebody says, excited that you are the leading in the field. So hey to
Thank you.
you. Facebook users, remember, hit that link. So we actually, because I can't see a name, it just say Facebook users. So I don't know who it is. So hit the link. I dropped it in the chat. Hit the link so I know who I'm talking to. Somebody else said, and we were going to tell you this, but how do we find you, Kamila? So somebody want to work with you.
Hmm.
And then they want to know where they can find some free help, especially for some family members. They want them to quit asking them for money, probably.
Yeah. Yeah. So my firm is called Collective Wealth Partners. It's www.collectivewealthpartners.com. And you can go to the contact us page, enter your information. There's a drop down where you can click on my name and you can get in contact with me that way. If you want to follow me on Instagram, my name is Kamila Financial. Pretty easy to find. And Twitter is Kamila_Elliott.
So look her up, call her, say
Mhm.
I need some help. And so, what are some of the mistakes that people make right now? Because I think that's a really big one in terms of we're hearing so much on the news. People are
Mhm.
worried, they're scared, they are thinking all they, they're looking at their portfolio, and that's not
Mhm.
great. And so, if they're in that situation, what are some of the things they should definitely not do? Um,
Mhm.
and mistakes that you typically see that people make?
Yeah. So one of the things people, my clients ask, like, should I change my portfolio? Should I change this? Should I change that? The market is going to constantly change and evolve. The market's going to go up and down. I've been in this profession for 20 years, and this is now my sixth bear market where returns on your portfolios have been down 20% or more. So I've been here before multiple times, right? And life is going to happen with us around us. You only make meaningful changes is if something is happening with you, right? So one is, do you plan on retiring soon? Will there be need for this money in the near future? Two, is your job security different, right? Remember, I mentioned a colleague, or excuse me, a client who's like, I'm quitting my job. Okay, we're making changes now, right? Because her income is changing, right? She's, starting a new endeavor. So it's typically when things change with you, is when you want to change your investments in a meaningful way. One of the things I recommend and where I earn my keep, I'll tell you, is being a behavioral coach. Now, what does that mean? I had some clients who wanted to sell out of the market during COVID-19 because have we ever seen a pandemic? I don't think any of us were around for the Spanish flu, so I'm assuming no, right? This was all of our first time with the pandemic, right? It was scary, it was frightening, there was a lot of racial unrest. I mean, 2020 was a lot. It was a whole lot. And a lot of people said, I wanted to sell, I'm just tired of it. And I'm like, no, actually, you should actually buy, right? So Roz and I were talking about this. There's a quote that I love. It's from Warren Buffett. He's one of the, investors. And I follow this quote wholeheartedly. And the quote is, be fearful when others are greedy, and be greedy only when others are fearful. So when people were scared and fearful during COVID, what was Camila doing? I was actually buying stocks. Right? I'm like, this is a great deal. Like, have you seen Delta Airlines stock? Have you seen United? Have you seen Royal Cruise Line? Have you seen Marriott? Have you seen Hyatt? Have you seen Hilton? Have you seen Wynn Hotels in Vegas? I hotels, but they're nice hotels. Like, they're gonna be, I think they're gonna make it, and they made it, right? And so use any um when the market has a lot of um stress, when there's a lot of over speculation, when there's a lot of fear, it often poses an opportunity to be successful or to be opportunistic in your strategies. And so that's typically when I encourage people to re-examine the market and their commitment. Because timing the market is hard, right? Some people say, I'm gonna make my money. I'm gonna get out when the market's down. I'm gonna get back in when the market comes back up.
If
But
only.
yeah, right. But many people don't know that most of the return you get in the market is the first few months when it recovers. So I found this graphic that I think is pretty cool. Is that after the recession in 2009, '07 to '09, the S&P 500. So the S&P 500 is the Standard & Poor's 500. It's the 500 largest companies in the US markets. If you would have stayed committed in 2009, not done anything, stayed invested, 2 years after the crash for the mortgage crisis, you would have had a return of 84%. Yes, tilt that head. Yes. right? It is worth a head tilt, right? And so that's what I mean. Be fearful when others are greedy, right? And be, greedy when others are fearful. In the sense, people were scared, they were selling, means prices were down. So if you were someone who could withstand that volatility and that risk, you were up 84%, and you were sitting at work when that was happening. Maybe not Netflix, but you're probably watching a movie, or we're probably sipping some hot cocoa somewhere, and your portfolio was returning 84%. And so I say I had to say is, don't let the hysteria um, have you do things that are not in your best interest, and being able to do the fire method or retire or have financial independence. Stay really committed to your goals and what you're trying to accomplish.
I think that's a good reminder, because the news, they just want people to watch. They want you to click on that ad. Sometimes the title is not even accurate.
Hmm. Exactly.
You're like,
Exactly.
that ain't. Like,
It's
most
funny.
people are broke. Most people are, losing their homes, and then you click, and they be like, 10% of people have lost. I'm like, wait, that's not most.
Hmm. And you know what someone called it? They called it like news porn, right? It's just like it gets you to click and react, and it creates that emotion. And there's a company, they actually do a presentation of all the articles that you see with hysteria, unnecessary hysteria. And people unfortunately react to this, and to their own detriment.
And that's how they get you to share an article. And you're like, wait, did you read it? Did you read what you shared? That's not what this is.
Yes. All right. So one of the things that I'll share, going back to control what you can control in terms of budget, and then how much you should have saved. People always ask me this question, right? So the budget that I use, and I use my clients, I tell Rosalind, whatever I recommend my clients, I do myself. So it's the 50-30-20 budget. Has anyone ever heard of this before? I'm just curious. Any reaction from the audience, Rosalind? The 50-30-20 budget.
Y'all don't know 50-30-20? Nobody? Nobody?
Nobody? Okay. All right. So 50-30-20 means, of your take-home pay, 50% should go to your needs. And what are your needs? It's your house, it's your mortgage, it's your rent, it's your utilities, it's health insurance, it's car insurance, it's minimum payments on your debt. So if you have student loan debt or credit card debt, we want you to be current, right? We want to have you have a good
Pay
credit
your
score.
bills.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's gas, anything that is a need, right? So 50% should go to that. 30% should go to your wants. And that may seem high, but here's the difference. Many of the things you think are needs are actually wants. So, a need is actually groceries. Groceries, meaning when Rosalind goes to Aldi, or I go to Kroger, or you go to Publix, right? That is a need, right? You're going to the grocery store, you're buying clothes, you're buying food to prepare and eat in the home. That's a need. What's a want is eating out. And not always eating at a restaurant. Chipotle counts as eating out. Kava counts as eating out. Panera Bread is eating out. Starbucks is eating out. Starbucks, because you can buy a coffee maker for $20 at Target. Go get some grinded, grinds, and go ahead and make your coffee at home. It is not a need; it's a want. You going to Starbucks to buy coffee is a want, right? Because you have the ability to prepare it at home. So, happy hour, cocktails with friends,
Now that's important. Now
vacations.
that's a need. That's mental health. Like, hold on.
Vacation. I know. But you have 30%. That's why we keep that amount, because it sounds a little bit high when you think about it, but we do feel it is important that you have once. And I tell my clients that, we all work really hard, right? And I believe in self-care. I'm not sure about y'all. So you need to do things that will keep you motivated to continue earning this income, right? So that's what I mean about you prioritizing what brings you joy. So if it's, having nice dinners, if it's going on vacation, if it's getting your hair done every week, if it's getting your nails done every 2 weeks, if it's getting that massage, right? That's all in that 30%. The thing is, you just can't do them all, right? You can't, right? It's that new handbag if you go to Phipps Plaza, or the new clothes from the mall, right? All of that is in there, but you just can't, you can't spend 50% of your take home on all those things. It should be limited to 30%. And then the other 20% should be building your financial future. So it's one of two ways. So one is if you have debt, making extra payments on your debt to pay it off sooner. So remember, I made a comment like minimum payments on your debt is a need. So let's say your minimum credit card payment is $200 a month. Well, building towards your financial future would say, you know what, I want to pay this credit card off sooner, so I'm going to put $500 on it. That is building towards your financial future because you're paying down your credit card more quickly. And then the other, part of that 20% is putting away for savings or your retirement account or anything like that. The hope is that if you're disciplined, the extra payments you pay on your debt, once you're done doing that, that money you can then move over to your savings. So then you're saving 20% of your income every single year.
So you can get
And
there. It's
you
just
can get there. You can get there.
some of those needs wants. You'd be like, wait a minute now. Like, I
Yeah.
gotta
Another one, I say a new cell phone, those trips to Home Goods.
yeah. A stroll through Target.
I was gonna say that. Look, see, I didn't say it because I'm a culprit. They had a sale on like these candles. I'm like, ooh, you know what? I'm mixing the wants and needs right now, but
Don't go to them end caps. The end caps. That's where they're clear. I'll be like, let me see what's on clearance. You might have to just no. Don't do
exactly.
none of that.
Like sometimes I just avoid sections of Target. You know what? I don't need that today.
Yeah, I didn't come in here for that. I don't have no. Just no.
hmm
Keep going.
exactly.
Let's see what's on the clearance rack. No, no, I don't
hmm
need
hmm
none of that.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
cute little T-shirt from that say sun and shade or something like that. I like a little cute
No, I
five
missed that.
dollar T-shirt.
I missed that Tabitha Brown T-shirt. I think it was like thighs and fries. I was like, oh,
Yes,
I would have loved that. I missed it. It's all sold out now, I think. So, yeah.
it's gonna come
Um,
back because they
it'll
they like, oh, y'all want this? We can make it.
exactly. But so that's really how your budget should be aligned. And the next is like, how much should you have saved? And this is really important again to be recession ready. Again, liquidity is key. So if you're single, you should have 6 months of your monthly expenses in a savings account. But it's the fixed monthly expenses. So, what that I mean by that is if you're having financial challenges, you're probably not going on vacation. So, or you're probably not going to get your hair done at the same frequency as you did it before. Maybe nails you may keep, I don't know. But, you want to kind of bring the budget down. Like, so a lot of the extracurricular activities, like you probably won't be buying clothes at the same rate or things like that. So let's say your monthly budget is 7,000. But for most people, if they dwindle it down to like, what are my monthly fixed expenses? Like, what do I need to survive on a monthly basis? Probably 5,000, maybe, right? 5 or 6,000, depending upon where you live in this country. You take that amount and multiply it times 6, right? So that could be 36,000 or $30,000. That's how much you should have readily available. Now, if you have a spouse or a partner, they typically recommend a lower amount, but only in this case. So if you and your partner and spouse are in unrelated fields, meaning that you don't work at the same company and you do something completely different, which means the likelihood of both of you having an economic event at the same time is highly unlikely, then you can do about 3 months of savings, right? Because the hope is that, and also if both of you make similar amounts of money, right? Because the hope is that if something were to happen, that the other spouse can kind of prop you up from their income. However, if you are in related fields, meaning you work for the same company, you're in the same industry, like if you think about COVID-19, those couples, they were both waiters at restaurants.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Those are
They're
hard.
those are hard, right? Your jobs are completely aligned, right? We still say do 6 months because you guys, the both of you, have jobs that are so aligned economically that you have a high risk that you should still save 6 months, among the both of you of monthly expenses just to make sure you're fine. And the last is if you're an entrepreneur. Now, people thought I was crazy when I said this, but now they believe me. I wasn't forecasting a pandemic by no means, but you should have at least 9 to 12 months saved. And the reason that is if there is an economic event, you know, one, you may be forced to use some of your personal resources to prop up the business. And then you still need to have money left over for you and your personal expenses. People thought it was too high, but I think as we've seen over the past 2 years, it wasn't too high, right? A lot of businesses still haven't fully recovered, unfortunately, because of things like inflation and supply chain issues. They're still having issues, revenue coming back to normal from COVID. You want to make sure that you are taken care of personally in your household where you don't have to worry about that.
It's a big deal. I mean, that's a
Mhm.
lot of people like, I'm gonna go out on my own, make the same money. But yeah, there's a lot of businesses that we would have never thought would have
Mhm.
closed. They're like, why would that
Mhm.
close? The
Mhm.
bar? Who ain't going to the bar?
Exactly. I know. Yeah. I mean, it's hard because there are certain businesses like I miss them. I'm like, what? Like, if they were so busy, and I thought they would be around forever, and rent the rent's too high, right? It's hard to, it's hard. People are expensive. Wage growth has gone up. So there are times that when you're an entrepreneur, as I am, you have to forgo your own personal income for the sake of the business. But if you personally are not liquid and solvent, you can't do that. And unfortunately, you need to make those tough decisions.
Yeah, I mean that's the hard part, but you
Mm-hmm.
pay the cost to be the boss.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Any questions on that? I know the emergency savings, I typically get a lot of questions about that, but everyone good with that guidance?
Everybody's good. I know somebody said she needs somebody to do her knotless braids for low. Listen, them
Oh,
prices
look.
out there, it's like, hey, wait a minute. It's a mortgage payment to get my hair braided. I could book a trip to the motherland and get my hair braided
Mhm.
for cheaper than some of these
It's
people.
like still look, I have Swiss in right now, and I'm like, it's been a month. I'm like, how long can I keep these things in? Like, can I,
Oh yeah,
like
they not playing.
how committed? Because to your point, it's not inexpensive at all. Yeah.
And they want their money up front. They like, listen, I'm gonna
Mhm.
need 50%
Deposit.
before you show up.
Mhm. Mhm. All facts. All facts. So in terms of making sure that you're good for emergency saving, things like that. One of the things I do want to make sure we talk about before we wrap up is, how much money should you have saved for retirement, right? So we talked about everyone should have a traditional IRA or Roth IRA or a taxable savings account. The other account you want to make sure that you are participating in is a 401k. Particularly because a lot of employers match the 401k. And when they match that 401k, it's really free money, right? So you put in 10%, they put in 5%. And some people say, well, I'm not sure I'm going to be at that company a long time. I don't know if I want to do it. Now, I'm not sure how many people here gamble, but if you were to walk into a casino and every time you put down $10, they gave you 15, would you stay there for a while?
And get you a free drink while you're at the table.
Exactly, right? That's really what an employer matches, right? Just the act of you investing, they're matching that money. So, one is always contribute up to the employer match and make sure you're getting the highest value of your company benefits. But it also helps you save more quickly because of that employer contribution. So, how much should you have saved for retirement? So, if you're 30, you should have 1 times your annual salary saved. If you're 40, you should have about 3 times your annual salary saved. If you're 50, you should have about 6 times your annual salary saved. And if you're 60, you should have about 8 times your annual salary saved.
Now, this is to retire at what age?
To be able to retire between 65 and 70.
So y'all gonna need more of that if
Hmm.
y'all want to retire before that.
Exactly. Yes. Because one of the things I mentioned about the FIRE method, I really like the FIRE method, but you have to oversave and be really diligent with your spending. Because, for example, no one forecasted 8.5% inflation over the past year, right? I didn't think that gas would be almost $5 a gallon.
In
Um,
some places, a bunch of folks paying six. I paid $5.89. Don't ask me to meet y'all nowhere.
yeah.
Nowhere.
So you think about that, right? When you do the FIRE method, you have to be disciplined with your budget and not spend. But when your daily expenses have increased, like actually, there was an article I read recently that during COVID-19, people's credit card debt actually declined. But now, due to inflation, credit card debt is actually increasing again because wage growth, or how much more you get in your paycheck every 2 weeks, or increases in pay, have not been aligned to inflation at 8.5%. So your income is not going up as high as inflation. So to fill the gap, people have to, use their credit cards to float the money month over month to be able to meet their daily needs. I was even reading earlier, like even rent is going up. So I have a client in Maryland. I was looking, the average rent increase in Maryland is between 11 and 15% in 1 year. That's how much people's rent has gone up.
Mm,
Yep.
11%.
Yep.
Let me tell my tenants they need to love me. I don't appreciate.
hmm So expenses are going up. So that's why you see a lot of people who do the FIRE method, if those aren't familiar, they tend to go overseas. We're seeing more and more people go abroad because typically those areas will have a lower cost of living, and the dollar will last a little bit longer than it will in the United States. Now, again, this 1 times, 3 times, 6 times, 8 times is just like an overall general example of how much you should have saved, but it can differ based upon each person. So one of the questions I ask clients in retirement planning is, tell me, how do you want to retire? Do you want to, sit in your front porch sipping sweet tea and, you know, play cards with your girlfriends and, go to brunch on Saturdays or Sundays? Or do you plan on globe trotting through India and Portugal? Right? Um,
It's fire though. Y'all better go on over there.
um, because how much I'm going to recommend you save for retirement will be a lot different, right? Um, I have this hypothesis that many people like us are not going to probably do what our grandparents did in retirement, right? We're going to, we tend to be a little bit healthier. There's been advances in medical technology. We travel a little bit longer and more than they did in their generation. And that means you're spending more money, right? There was this misnomer that you're going to spend less in retirement than you did working, but not always, because now you have more free time. And if you have health, you're going to use that extra time to do things you didn't do when you were working. And so I'll share, that's just a high level example, but the amount you may need could be vastly different based upon, how do you envision your retirement being? The other thing I want to mention is, now that you know how much you need to save, one of the things to be careful about when you are looking to save for retirement is not to put all your eggs in one basket, right? I'll say that one more time. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Um, some companies do well, some companies don't. And you don't want your entire financial future to live and die by one company, right? So you may love Tesla, you may think Amazon is great, you may love Apple, but anything could happen to these companies, right? You don't know. There could be a regulatory change. There could be a lawsuit. One thing I say, use as an example, taxi cab drivers never saw Uber or Lyft coming, right? If you would have
Exactly.
if you would have told someone 20 years ago that taxi cabs were extinct and everyone rides in cars with strangers, you would think you were crazy, right? Um, Bell Atlantic, right? All those Bell companies, they're gone because now everyone has cell phones. Technology has phased them completely out. We mentioned a comment. I watched that the last Blockbuster on Netflix, right? Blockbuster is gone, right? It's officially done. I think that the last store just closed.
Oh, I thought the last one I saw it in Alaska a few years ago because some of them don't have broadband internet. So they still actually like, on Friday. The
They still walk in the Blockbuster and get that
yes,
DVD,
no
right?
popcorn.
Because like think about it, who even has DVDs now, right? It's like,
My
you know,
mama
now.
bought me a DVD VHS player like 5, 6 years ago. I was like, Mama, I know you thought this was, I sold it on Craigslist.
But it's true. Like you don't see these technologies coming and make these companies extinct. So you shouldn't live and die by in terms of one company. You want to diversify. And through investing, they made it really easy for you to diversify. So, there's two ways you can do it. One is through mutual funds, and one is through ETFs. So, ETF means exchange traded fund. And they basically do very similar things. So, a mutual fund, it tends to be uh, actively managed. And by actively managed, there's like a portfolio manager sitting there picking certain stocks and doing research and saying, I think this company is going to do better than this company. They have analyst teams of people that determine the allocation. So typically, mutual funds have higher fees, but they're still diversified. Or you can do an exchange traded fund. And how they're different, a mutual fund, the price is, they're all priced at 4 p.m. Eastern time. So they look at all the holdings in the fund and they price what it is at 4 o'clock, and that's how much you get. Exchange traded funds, they're like mutual funds, they're a basket of individual securities, but they're priced all throughout the day. So there could be a price at 9:30, a price at 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 3:59. So if you buy it at a certain part of the day, you'll get that price at that day. The other reason why ETFs are a little bit different is, not to get too complicated, but remember I mentioned diversification for taxes, right? Um, with your IRAs and Roth IRA and taxable savings, diversification for investments. One of the things that ETFs does, they have the ability to limit capital gains that are paid to investors by how they're structured. What do I mean by capital gains is when the stocks make money, they pass them on to the holders of those funds. ETFs have a proprietary structure, many of them do, of how they minimize taxes along the way. So for many clients, we put these in taxable accounts because it limits taxes in terms of how they're structured. But ETFs, they tend to be passive. So like you can buy an S&P 500 index, right? You can buy the total bond market ETF. You can buy emerging markets. You can buy European markets. But they're all indexes when a large company like S&P or Morgan Stanley or others put an index together. And all the portfolio manager needs to do is just follow the list of securities. That's it. So the cost to manage the funds are very, very low. And they pass those savings to you as an investor. So if you want to save money and get the market return, we typically recommend people go in exchange traded funds. If you think that a portfolio manager has a talent, and the talent could be picking certain stocks, but it also can be picking stocks that are for companies that support women, picking companies of stocks that are very environmentally focused, picking companies and stocks that have a good record on racial diversity. All these mutual funds have their own different targets of what they're trying to accomplish. You can do that through a mutual fund if you want a specific exposure or a specific lens as to how your money is invested.
Now, I know we're up against time. Couple questions.
Hmm.
So, can they do this on their own, or should they get help from someone like you?
Yeah. So I typically say you need to have something called TWA to be a good investor. If not, hire an advisor. TWA means time. Do you have time to sit there and look at your portfolio? Oh, did I put money in my retirement? Let me allocate it. Let me put it away here. Oh, my target allocation was 90% stocks, 10% bonds, but now I'm 95 and 5. Let me fix it, right? If you don't have time, hire an advisor, right? And we say to some people, particularly those that are very successful at work, you should focus on what earns you the money, and we'll focus on investing your money. So if that takes time away from you being all that you can be at work and sprinkling magic everywhere, then you should probably just hire someone to do it, right? The second is willingness. Do you want to sit and keep up with the markets and know what's happening and keep up with tax laws and all that fun stuff? Um, if you're willing to do that, if you're willing to do the reading and, understand what's happening and watch shows like this on a continuous basis, then go right ahead and do it, right?
Come watch this anyway.
Exactly, right? Yeah. And the last is ability. Some people just don't like it. Like they can be willing to do it, they could have the time, but you could say like, I just don't get it. I mean, I can get it, but I just don't want to get it, and I don't like it. Right? So the ability. It's like some people they're not wired that way. Like I'll tell you, I'm not creative. I'm very math, technical, yes. But don't have me write a poem. It would be awful, right? So we all have our gifts, right? And for some people, looking at investment reports and charting and looking at your retirement and determining you have enough, it's just not for them. They don't have the ability to do it. So we recommend if you don't have time, willingness, and ability to hire an advisor. But I will say, I'm going to share this with all of you. I think this is really important. And Rosalind mentioned this earlier, is that I'm a certified financial planner. And what that means, two things. To have a CFP, you must have taken 6 modules and a comprehensive exam, and you must have at least 2 years of experience in the profession. So this is no one who just woke up and said, I want to be an advisor, and 6 months later they're managing your money. It doesn't work that way. This is someone who's demonstrated at least 3 years of commitment, in addition to obtaining a college degree, because a college degree is a requirement to be a CFP professional. So they have a college degree, and they fulfilled at least 3 years, 1 year of coursework and 2 years of experience to work with you. And the most important is that we're fiduciaries. I need to do what's in your best interest, not in my best interest. You can look me up at cfp.net, and you can see if I've had any customer complaints, if I ever filed. I don't. You can see if I filed for bankruptcy. I haven't. We believe in transparency. Would you want to take advice from a financial planner that's filed for bankruptcy five times? Probably not. You're like, maybe, you don't walk the walk and talk the talk, right? So that's why I believe in the transparency is someone who has your best interest and someone who has been vetted appropriately, who's met the educational requirements, experience, and ethical aspects to be a competent financial planner.
Now, Danielle asked a really good question. If you hire someone, would they be able to purchase investments that would typically only be for accredited investors? So you probably want to define accredited investors for those that might
Yes.
know.
Yes.
And then,
Yeah. So there are certain types of investments that are designed for people that have a certain net worth, income, or levels of experience, right? So accredited investors are typically the only ones that can invest in things like private equity or like venture capital. You may have heard about this, right? Um, I spent some time in my prior life working with ultra high net worth clients that had over $20 million in assets. And private equity markets typically perform differently than domestic equity or like S&P 500, things you can typically invest in at Vanguard or Fidelity. Now, a credit investor, the big thing is the financial criteria. So it means you have to have a net worth of at least $1 million, excluding your primary residence. If you're married, $300,000 of income over the past 2 years, or if you're single, $200,000 of income over the past 2 years. And then once you meet that criteria, you're now eligible for a investment in either private equity or venture capital or as such. Typically, many people do hire financial advisors or have them incorporated into their plan because they act a little bit differently than normal investments. They tend to be riskier. And one of the things we make sure you do is that you're not being redundant, right? So you're not investing in a private equity and other parts of your portfolio have exposure to that same market and you're taking on too much risk. So many people hire advisors from a due diligence perspective for us to kick the tires a little bit more, learn about the company, ask more detailed questions, and also understand how it can fit into their portfolio overall.
yeah, I always equate working with an advisor similar to, so most people know I own rental property and I am cheap. And so when stuff break, I'd be like, let me YouTube how to fix. And there are times that I have probably spent more than I would have spent to just call somebody because I'm in there trying to save a dollar, or I'd have messed something up, or it
hmm
took me way longer, and all those kind of things. And so sometimes, yeah, you can learn how to replace the toilet if you want to. But if I broke my nail in the process, like
Yes. Yes.
and so it kind of goes back to that. So do you want to do it? Do you want to lean on somebody to do it? Or do you want to say, listen, I ain't trying to get my hands dirty today. So
hmm Yeah.
you get somebody else get their hands dirty.
Yeah, and the thing about it though is people always think an advisor it's how much money you make, but we also help with loss mitigation is how much money did you not lose. And so we do things like tax planning, help with estate planning. So making sure we heard it like today about Chadwick Boseman. I don't know if you guys heard about him, and he never had a will or trust, and $900,000 went to the government.
Y'all
Had
better go
he?
back and watch them videos that we posted about
hmm
estate planning. Go do
Yep.
that tonight.
Yeah. So for all of our clients, we were like, "Where's your estate plan? You don't have one? Okay, we're gonna do it right now." And like we're in the meetings with you. Like, let's make sure. Let's ask the questions, and we're gonna get on you to make sure you get it done, because we don't want to spend our time building all this wealth just to give it to the state of California. So, um, yeah, it's really important to have. Sometimes like we are like going back to the beginning, Rosalind. We are an accountability partner too. Those things that you push off, we're gonna keep nudging you until you get it done.
I love it.
Yeah.
Let's see. And drop your final questions in there. And while if you got any other questions, drop those in there. Camila, give us some closing remarks before we, hear in the morning about all the signs of recession and all that to come. Give us
Mhm.
some final remarks in terms of where we should be, where our headspace should be, and so forth.
So at the end of the day, it's all about you. It's all about you, your goals, your risk, and turn off the noise. Don't let the markets, don't let the news, don't let anyone take you off your course. And work with a financial advisor or work with a person you trust. Or if you don't, be a student of the industry and read, but stay committed to you and your personal goals and don't let everything else distract you.
And come here, hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications. So y'all always getting some good information here from actual professionals. And I always make sure our speakers ain't just selling you something. So we are giving the good.
Yes, 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 yes.
We got a bunch of questions. We got a couple questions. So one, this is a good one, and I definitely hear this one often. She
Mhm,
invests in ETFs and index funds with auto deposits twice a month.
mhm.
And so, does she need an advisor or a financial planner?
She may need it because one thing I've seen people, they'll have 5 different funds, but they're all investing in the same thing. So like the diversification they thought they have, they really don't. It's like 80% overlap. Two, it's where is she investing? Does she have them in tax-free accounts, taxable accounts, tax-deferred accounts? Um, all of those things, are her assets correlated? Do they all act different in different market environments? So an advisor can be helpful in just doing I would say kind of kicking the tires and making sure that how she's investing is what she wants to invest in is going to give her that desired outcome.
Now, Danielle asked a question. I feel like Danielle was eavesdropping on our conversation earlier
Hmm.
because she said, "What are your thoughts, feedback on the rise of people interested in day trading? Is day trading a viable investment source?" Girl, get out our business because we was talking about this before we hit the live.
Yes, yes. I will say day trading, only trade what you can afford to lose. Um, it's easy to be a day trader when markets are up. It's a lot more painful when markets are down. And uh, and also people don't understand that the taxable consequences of day trading. Because when you day trade, everything is short term, meaning every gain that you get is taxed at your ordinary income rate or your tax rate. It's not like a tax advantage way of investing. So you have to always understand the risk of day trading and also the taxable consequences of day trading as well.
Now, this, I know this is the number one reason why people like, I don't want an advisor. How much does a financial advisor cost? Or how much should you be making to even have a financial advisor?
Well, we do things to meet people where they are. So for some people, we charge an hourly fee. Um, Depending on the advisor and their experience, it could be between 250 and 350 an hour. And people will get 2 to 3 hours and just say, "Hey, just double check my math. Make sure I have this right. Make sure am I invested the right way? Do I have all the accounts I should have? Things of that nature." $1,000 is not a lot of money to catch something if you're doing something wrong or you're not invested appropriately based upon your age and your risk tolerance or what you're trying to achieve. For clients that want ongoing, um, usually the industry standard is 1% of assets under management. So if we're managing, $100,000, it's $1,000, a year. But with that, you get, someone who's actively watching your portfolio, making changes, and is having a conversation with you about your retirement goals. So we're the ones that say, "All right, Rosalind, we told you to save 10. Markets have changed. You got a raise. Now it's time for you to do 12," right? We're the ones that say and do the things that you don't want to hear, but you need to hear to make sure you're reaching your goals. So if you choose to have someone that's more holistic in nature, we typically charge about 1% of assets under management.
This is a great question. And I don't know if y'all have been here with us for a while. If you have not been with us for a while, I share this story 1,000 times over. This is why I'm a big advocate on estate planning. Someone says, any suggestions on how health, wellness should play in financial planning? Chadwick was in denial about his illness until it was too late. I'm going to give my 2 cents on this and then I'm going to pass this over. I don't care how healthy you are,
Mm-hmm.
need to do your estate planning today.
Mm-hmm.
If you have not been here for a while, you probably have not heard the story. If you have, you've probably heard the story because I tell the story often. My sister was 39 years old and she had a massive stroke. She has 4 children. We are 2.5 years later. My sister has yet to walk. She can barely talk. She is not able to help and do for herself. My sister had no estate planning documents in place. So when I arrived at the hospital and it was time to, who can pick my niece up from school? Who can sign to get this? Nothing. When I tell you the amount of scrambling that we had to do in order to basically function for my sister as she is fighting for her life was ridiculous. And I have preached, and I tell y'all all the time, make your parents tell you where the documents are, get the documents in place. I have been telling that to my mama and my daddy forever. And I have told them a million times, if y'all don't get this stuff in order, y'all gonna be buried in a shoebox in my not so favorite shoes. And I tell you, after being there and sitting in ICU for 3 months with my sister, my mom handed me her documents. I don't care how well you are. And most people don't know, my sister actually walked and got her PhD in December, and 4 weeks later, she had a massive stroke. I don't care if you run marathons on Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. Get your stuff in order. I don't care. I, I don't care. I don't care if you eat Cheetos on the weekend or celery sticks. Get it today, yesterday.
Mhm.
Do that.
Mhm.
Mila.
No, I mean, you're right. I mean, I think about people like Prince. He was healthy, he was fine, right? I heard about, like, Bob Saget. He hit his head in a hotel room. Like, no pre-existing health conditions, no he hit his head on a hotel headboard. As they say, that's how he passed away. And, I don't wanna be sad at the end of this, but there are stories I know of people who just went to have dinner and they both died in a car accident, and they had 2 young kids. Um and the families, scrambling to determine who can be able to be guardians and who should manage financial matters. So, to your point, Rosalind, everyone needs an estate plan. It's not based upon age, based upon health. Unfortunately, we live in a world that we all know that tomorrow's never promised. Things happen all the time. And, the last thing you want to do is leave your loved ones grieving, but also needing to handle financial matters at the same time.
So I don't care if y'all ain't getting nothing else from this. Do that. Like,
Hmm.
do that. We didn't have a bunch of speakers talk about that because I am more passionate than I've ever been.
Hmm.
Because I'm quite sure, I'm 100% sure my sister was like, on my 40th birthday, I'm going to do.
Mhm. Mhm.
That ain't happened.
It didn't happen.
That ain't happened. So
Mhm.
we ain't gonna leave on a sad note because y'all
No.
gonna get y'all stuff in order.
Yes.
It's gonna be grand.
Mhm.
Somebody said it's $1,000. There's so much value. If y'all spending $600 on the DoorDash
And it's nothing. It's
in one
nothing.
month,
But I would say, just to end, like, think about living life with abundance, thinking life of financial independence, and that's what we do for our clients. And I think that's, and that's what we wish, particularly for people like us who had so many impediments to being successful financially, so many things against us. That it's really important that we take the step for ourselves and for our loved ones and for the next generation to leave a legacy of wealth.
and I will say, so many of us are going to be the first generation of generational wealth.
Mhm.
I'm gonna say that again because somebody didn't get that. Like,
Mhm.
other people get to enjoy the benefits and the glory of generational wealth.
Mhm.
Grandma's writing them a check, leaving them
Mhm.
some good inheritance, and then
Mhm.
us.
Yes.
We're
Yeah.
going to have to be the first generation, which means we're going to have to learn things that we didn't know, our parents didn't know, somebody couldn't pass down to us. We are learning as we go. And I hope you all always recognize a trend because
Mhm.
99% of our speakers look like us,
Yes.
because there are resources in our community that understand us. They understand what we need, what we value, how things are different in terms of the dynamic of how we support and build wealth, but also the demands of our family and so forth. And so 100%, yes, you can get any advisor. Yes, you can get help from a number of different places. I hope you look through some of the folks that we have presented. And if you are in Atlanta, Georgia, or what's the other states that you're licensed in?
Texas, Colorado, California.
So if you in any of those, go to Collective Wealth, hit her up in a little drop down box in the contact us, and make sure, even if you're like, listen, I just need a little time. I need a couple hours to get me straight, see if I'm on the right path. Invest in yourself. 100%. Take that time and just invest in yourself. I want to thank you all for being here. We had great chat, all in the chat. I was typing and stuff.
Yes.
If I missed something, I misspelling something. Listen, I was trying to look and type at the same time. But I'm so happy that you all came and spent this Monday evening with us. As always, our goal is to provide insights so you can create your map, because your financial independence journey is going to look different from mine. And you need the tools in order to do that. And I always want you to see a Black face that can help you on your journey. And I want to thank you, Kamila, for being with us. It was an absolute. Oh goodness! I'm sorry. Somebody did ask one more thing. I'm sorry. I'm giving the closing remarks. Somebody said, "What's the best resources to read and get information?"
Oh, I would say podcasts. Gene Chatsky has a great podcast. Susie Orman has a great podcast. Minority Money podcast. Those are great ways to consume information really quickly and get more information about investing.
And so, on that, sorry about that. I'll be trying to make sure I ain't miss nothing.
Mhm.
On that note, thank you again. Make sure, if you haven't, hit the subscribe button and hit the notification so you don't miss another Money Monday. And then make sure you join us next week, not on Monday because it's the 4th of July. I ain't gonna say what it is because that's day, but I'm gonna take it and rest anyway. So we're gonna get together on Tuesday for our Money Monday. And our speaker is someone we've had before. You're gonna love her. But the big thing she talk about is getting your money. And she helps you increase your income tenfold. So I can't wait for her to come talk. I can't wait to see y'all next week. And until then, have a great night.
Thank you.